Welcome to Pipers'Persuasion, Monday the 9th of August, and tonight we have a well-known figure in the piping world, Robert Mathieson. We'll see how he likes to be addressed, probably Rob Mathieson of Shots and Dyke Head, House of Edgar, Shots and Dyke Head, House of Edgar because that's his sponsors. Shots and Dyke Head Band, as you know, have been around for a long number of years. In fact, this is a centenary year, and they are playing here in the College of Piping this evening to celebrate their 100 years, and they have all sorts of memorabilia with them. Anyway, on to Rab. Has been pipe major of Shots for a long number of years. He'll tell you in a moment or two. Has been a highly successful pipe major at top flight because of his close collaboration with his drum corps, a matter that other pipe majors seem to ignore to this day. He's also a composer. He's an innovator with pipe bands. He's always pulling the rabbit out of the hat well in front of everybody else. And this is particular in emphasis with tunes and the presentation of the tunes with the pipe band. He's a leading member of the RSPBA, Scottish Pipe Band Association, and in the various committees. He's also a judge. He's an opinion former in piping circles, and we're looking forward to all his views in these matters. And also, we'd like a wee bit news about the shop that he runs in Bothwell. And lastly, I'd like to ask him a question sometime during the course of this interview about his choice of tunes and how he likes the tempos and the expression of these tunes. And we'll now hear from Robert Mathieson. Right, Robert, you've heard the introduction, quite a heavy introduction, but again, you're a famous guy. You've spent your whole life in piping, and I'm inclined to ask a lot of people where it started. I think maybe just a very quick sentence on that and a passing mention to Paul Kemet, because I'm anxious to get into Shots Pipe Band. So just a sentence or two and an introduction to your piping life.
I started piping at the age of 12, which is 40 years ago, in the mining village of Blackburn, which was the village next door to Whitburn, where the Polkemmet Colliery Band were stationed. And in those days, that was really the backbone of pipe bands in the Lanarkshire, West Lothian area. It was basically colliery bands. I joined Polkemmet Colliery as a youngster, the novice juvenile band, and was taught by Johnny Barnes. Okay.
Famous man.
Aye, very much so, who originated from Fife. And was an absolutely fantastic piper, you know, a great piper. And he spent a lot of time singing you the tunes. He did teach you the theory, and you knew how to read music and learned all the theory. But his technique was to sing the music to you. And to this day, if I look at a piece of music to sight read it, I still hear Johnny Barnes singing it as I read the music. So that's something that's stuck with me.
That's very important, because music's just not dots and paper. That's only a guide, isn't it? And you've got to bring the emotion out in the music.
Certainly, and that's one of the things that there's a lot of good pipers out there, technicians, but some of them play from the wrist instead of playing from the heart, you know, and I think that's very important in delivering a performance. That's
extremely important for the audience point of view, because as soon as they get bored, they can detect, even the non-expert can detect a sort of computer sound as against something that's real music.
That's very true, and I think in the first 20 seconds of hearing a piper, you'll establish whether he's technically good or not. And he can only impress you so many times in 20 minutes, you know, so after that you're looking to be seduced by the melody.
That's it in a nutshell. Harping back to your early life again, is it my understanding your first major band was Shots, then you moved to Polkemmet and back again?
Well, I've only ever played in two bands.
Right.
I started off in Polkemmet Juveniles, the novice band, and then went up to the grade 1 band. I've only ever played in two grades, the juvenile, novice, the under 18 section, and then into grade 1. I played in Polkemmet, and then went up to Shots in the mid-70s, and then came back to Polkemmet as pipe major. and then back to shots in 1987 as pipe major again. So I've only actually
So that
played
was 79 Pokemon, am I right?
Probably around about there. Aye. I was probably there about 5 or 6 seasons in Pokemon.
I'm not being clever because Jim Kilpatrick kind of mentioned that a minute ago.
But don't believe him in numbers when it comes to age.
But so back to shots, what year again, sir, again, as pipe major?
When I went to shots as pipe major was 1987, which is 24 years ago.
Have you enjoyed it?
Very much. I mean, to me, 24 years ago when I took over shots, they were down at the bottom of the grade with 7 pipers.
Right.
And that's what we took over. And I always remember Pokemon were really sailing at that time. We were doing very, very well. Actually, we had a season where we were taking second prize at quite a few of the competitions, the big ones, you know.
Okay.
And when the call came for me to go up and take over shots, I knew that they were in turmoil and they were low in personnel, it was going to be lean. And I thought, well, and I said to Jim Kilpatrick, if we can't help them, who's going to help them? Because we learned everything about bandcraft up there. We learned about tone, reeds from the McAllisters up there. Jim learned everything from Alec. And I says, we either stand back and watch it disappear and go the same route as the Muirheads, the Red Hackle, that kind of thing. Right. So I felt, we really need to go there. So we went back to pay our debt. That was 24 years ago, but I think I've paid it now.
Oh, I think so. Aye, in spades as well. And it was great that you had Jim Kilpatrick. What a man to have at your side. And collaborate with him. And of course, the experience that you'd have with Pokemon, you'd made all your mistakes, if you like, and ground out and polished out your partnership together. How did you evolve this, even at Pokemon and then moving into shots?
Well, I think the style kind of evolved between Jim and myself. I'm probably a frustrated drummer. Most of the tunes that I would write would be rhythmically driven. Obviously, there's got to be a melodic hook in there, but I'm very much driven by rhythmic structure when it comes to pipe band tunes. Whereas solo piping, I would probably prefer to hear a more expressive delivery of tunes. Yeah. But when you're trying to write material for a pipe band, you're looking for a structure that will accept a snare line, various tenor drums, basses, etc. And you need to write in a rhythmic style for that to work. There's a lot of great piping tunes for me that never work in a pipe band because it's an expression melody where you can stretch the bar lines and express the melodic statement. And the last thing it needs is a metric drum section putting a whole pattern of decoration all over it and drumming rudiments and then bass and tenors over the top. And they tend to have to track the melody rather than enhance the melody. So I tended to write tunes for pipe bands, and they're very disposable. I'm not really precious about them in any way. They're very often written to do a job. You know, if we need a two-parted reel in the key of A to get from this tune to get onto the third one, okay, we'll write a two-parted tune and we'll write it with drums in mind. And I think that's how the style's developed. A lot of my tunes wouldn't stand up to being played a bagpipe on its own. They would sound far too customised and stylised rhythmically for a single piper to go up and play without the rhythm. You would know there was something missing.
So that's excellent because you've developed your music for the pipe band, whereas people that maybe go to Ross's settings and pluck out a 2/4 and because it's a nice tune, take it to a pipe band and it just doesn't work with a drum section at all. They're struggling all the time and there's a conflict between the two sections.
Absolutely.
And there's a loss in the ensemble sound and just a complete loss all round. So it's extremely good that you have nailed down this factor and that you have projected this in the pipe band and taken it forward. And I'm quite sure you've taken a lot of people by the coattails. They've had to jump on the wagon to just stay up there with you. How successful in terms of prizes, say World Championships for a start under your pipe majorship? I have
a fair idea of that in a minute because we had to collate it for the celebration of this 100 years anniversary of the band. And it totals 39 major prizes. There was 9 Champion of Champions and 5 World Championships, which was 94, 97, the Millennium 2000, 2003 and 2005. And I can say that off the cuff now because we've had to register it for this exhibition. However, the thing I do remember vividly, we were actually runners-up 9 times in major championships, and that was only over about 12 contests. We got 9 seconds, and I remember at that stage thinking, we're never going to win one of these.
Aye.
And then, lo and behold, we started to win, and then it kind of snowballed then. And like most top bands who are lucky enough to play well and work hard and get a wee bit of luck as well, you played well and won, and sometimes you played not so well and still won. You know, there does seem to be a wee bit of a roller coaster effect.
Yeah, there is. I always get a feeling with that. You could chat on the door for years, and there's no answer, and suddenly you're in there, and you're up there, and you're winning, and you're getting carried along, and there's slightly off days. You'll get it anyway, but when you're down, you're really down.
Sure, and you tend to be judged against your own standards and what people expect from you, and that can sometimes be difficult to overcome as well. But that's the nature of the game. We're only dealing with adjudicators who are pipers themselves, and they don't always necessarily get it right. They can be emotively seduced when they hear a particular thing on the pipes, and you think, I'm going for that today. That the music touched me, you know. And you get other times where they say, oh no, I could hear technical things wrong or tonal things wrong. But there doesn't seem to be a system where you would prioritise is poor intonation worse than mistakes, is lack of melody. How does that weigh against somebody that cannot play together, or if the tone's not right? So it's very much what does it for you on the day. So it's in that sense, at the top end, it can be quite subjective, and when you're running, you're running.
You've touched on the judging aspect of it, and you're a judge yourself. And how do you actually judge pipe bands when you're out there?
Well, on the music, I mean, and the performance as well. In the lower grades, you find yourself repeating the same statement again and again and again, performance after performance. First and foremost, I would say the music and the performance element, and I think that is something that the training of the pipe band adjudicators and the way we talk about piping in general and drumming, we never ever talk about the performance. We talk about the technical elements of it and the tonal elements and the unison, things that you can mathematically measure. And ensemble is a very, very grey area, and I think my interpretation of ensemble would be quite different from a lot of the guys that talk to me about ensemble. I mean, for example, I would say quite clearly ensemble for me has very little to do with pipes and drums playing together. But that seemed to be the catchphrase when we tried to promote ensemble in the organisation. It was all about playing perfectly together. You can be played perfectly together and have poor ensemble because of the arrangements are not right, the mood's not right or whatever. And you can have great ensemble, and the pipes and drums not necessarily be spot on together, but the ensemble's good. I think the first thing in a piece of music, in other areas, orchestra or whatever, you have a word at the start of the music to tell you the mood of the music. We never ever do that in piping. We just say that's the march, and you take it through to the drummers and tell them we need it for next Tuesday. You know.
Well, this is a communication thing.
And that comes back to what you were saying about Jim and myself.
Aye.
We do discuss the presentation and how I hear the tune rhythmically.
Yeah.
And sometimes too much, because sometimes I would give Jim a tune and I would almost give a skeleton of the kind of rhythm and the monotone that I'd be looking for to accompany it, you know, which almost places him down a particular track. And that's fine if he's happy with it, but if he's no, and he hears it differently, we very often dump the tune. You know, we say, well, okay, we'll play it because I'm hearing it different from that, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a good tune, but we'll not play it.
But it's important that you feel that you can reject tunes as well as select them.
Sure.
Some folk are quite adamant and they dig in their heels and say, I want to play that tune because it's a nice tune. That's not just the criteria, is it? You're quite renowned for just playing at 5 championships and concentrating on that. So obviously your preparation is towards that end. And could you maybe discuss preparation of instrument, bagpipe, and preparation of the people towards winning championships?
Yeah, playing the 5 championships only is becoming more difficult because we've got a lot of youngsters in the band that we bring through the teaching programme at North Lanarkshire schools. The idea of playing at 5 majors only stemmed from the years when the band were at the top end and winning sometimes, but we were often coming up against overseas bands coming over and presenting their medley for the first show, you know, and heard for the first time, and they often had the edge, that fresh edge, against a band who had been coming out every week in Scotland. So the judges knew the medley and knew the pitfalls and what was good about it and what they didn't like about it. So it wasn't an even playing field for us. Hence why we decided, let's just do the 5 majors, focus on this presentation, which is fine when you have experienced players. It's very difficult for us now to prepare somebody for their first contest with the band, and it's a major championship.
Yes.
But it does fit in with the kind of lifestyles that young people have got now. No longer do you have guys in piping that want to give 20 weekends out of their year to go away with the band, you know.
Because they've got other things on the go as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Multitasking all over the place. And how about reeds and chanters?
Well, I would go and select the reeds. I have my own business that sells reeds and pipes and kilts and all the rest of it, so I have a good selection of reeds. So I just, if I fancy the reed and I like it, then we'll play it. I don't have any great... when I took over the band, we obviously had a history of the McAllister, the Warmack chanter and the reeds. A great tradition. I was the first pipe major to kind of move off of that, and we started playing shepherd reeds and shepherd chanters, and we're now playing a new chanter which we're kind of developing ourselves with McCallum's, which I'm quite enjoying doing that actually. I think the tone over the years in pipe bands has changed, and I've been caught out, kind of left a wee bit out with the pitches moving up. I think the pitch is too high now.
Yes.
And I think it's because I'm getting older. I think that the top end register in your hearing is the first thing to go. And when I hear very sharp chanters, I cringe. And I even hear them in the top of grade 1. And it's the quality of the sound is piercing. And I'm thinking, is that my ears, or does everybody hear it piercing? You know, and it's a difficult thing. But I think the pitch has got far too high. And we're actually alienating ourselves from mainstream musicians by doing that.
That's a good point. You're quite renowned for just playing at 5 championships and concentrating on that. So obviously your preparation is towards that end. And could you maybe discuss preparation of instrument, bagpipe, and preparation of the people towards winning championships?
Yeah, playing the 5 championships only is becoming more difficult because we've got a lot of youngsters in the band that we bring through the teaching programme at North Lanarkshire schools. The idea of playing at 5 majors only stemmed from the years when the band were at the top end and winning sometimes, but we were often coming up against overseas bands coming over and presenting their medley for the first show, you know, and heard for the first time, and they often had the edge, that fresh edge, against a band who had been coming out every week in Scotland. So the judges knew the medley and knew the pitfalls and what was good about it and what they didn't like about it. So it wasn't an even playing field for us. Hence why we decided, let's just do the 5 majors, focus on this presentation, which is fine when you have experienced players. It's very difficult for us now to prepare somebody for their first contest with the band, and it's a major championship.
Yes.
But it does fit in with the kind of lifestyles that young people have got now. No longer do you have guys in piping that want to give 20 weekends out of their year to go away with the band, you know.
Because they've got other things on the go as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Multitasking all over the place. And how about reeds and chanters?
Well, I would go and select the reeds. I have my own business that sells reeds and pipes and kilts and all the rest of it, so I have a good selection of reeds. So I just, if I fancy the reed and I like it, then we'll play it. I don't have any great... when I took over the band, we obviously had a history of the McAllister, the Warmack chanter and the reeds. A great tradition. I was the first pipe major to kind of move off of that, and we started playing shepherd reeds and shepherd chanters, and we're now playing a new chanter which we're kind of developing ourselves with McCallum's, which I'm quite enjoying doing that actually. I think the tone over the years in pipe bands has changed, and I've been caught out, kind of left a wee bit out with the pitches moving up. I think the pitch is too high now.
Yes.
And I think it's because I'm getting older. I think that the top end register in your hearing is the first thing to go. And when I hear very sharp chanters, I cringe. And I even hear them in the top of grade 1. And it's the quality of the sound is piercing. And I'm thinking, is that my ears, or does everybody hear it piercing? You know, and it's a difficult thing. But I think the pitch has got far too high. And we're actually alienating ourselves from mainstream musicians by doing that.
That's a good point. And you mentioned the shop a moment ago. Let's just mention it again for overseas people that don't pass Main Street Bodwell. What's the name of the shop?
The shop's called the Kilt Center. It's based in Hamilton, and we're actually kilt makers to trade. We manufacture kilts. We're probably the biggest kilt manufacturer in Scotland, I would say. And hence my connection with the House of Edgar, who are one of the biggest weavers. One year we were their biggest customer ever, and we were chatting to them, and lo and behold, we managed to get a sponsorship for the band, which was fantastic. And we're then called the House of Edgar Shots in Dykehead, which was a great product for us to stand beside. You know, although you would be prepared to call yourself anything to get some money to run the band nowadays, because it costs a lot of money to run a band.
Fantastic amount.
Aye.
And you mentioned kilts a moment ago. What weight of tartan do you use for the band?
16 ounce.
16 ounce?
16 ounce, always.
Is that unusual?
No, I would say most bands in Scotland would wear 16 ounce heavyweight kilts, 8-yard kilts.
Yeah. And for the normal kilt wearer, solo piper or whatever, what does he choose?
I would say most of them go for the 16 ounce. It's more beer tent proof, you know. You can wear the 13 ounce as well, that's okay. But it doesn't hold its shape just as well. It's sharp when it's pressed, but it doesn't take the bashing that kilts can often take over the season, you know.
And so, you sell other goods?
Oh, aye. We sell bagpipes, we sell reeds, we sell giftware, we do complete Highland dress. And I design a lot of the stuff as well. A lot of people assume that our main business is with pipe bands. It's actually not. Piping and pipe bands would be less than 20% of our business. We mainly deal with the public and the wedding market. When I first, when I think back 20, 25 years, you couldn't pay youngsters to wear a kilt.
Aye, I know.
But now they want it for their school dance, the prom. From 18 onwards, they want to be seen in the kilt. Hence, it's got a bit more fashion conscious. And when I first went into the kilt trade, I was very much a traditionalist. I thought, oh no, you can't wear a black kilt, or you can't wear that. But I found myself now designing tartans. I've designed about 35 tartans that are registered. And the big one I done was the Saltire tartan, which was the pleats were woven with the Saltire flag in the back. And there's over 5,000 of them in the marketplace now. Now, if that's putting people in kilts that wouldn't normally have worn a kilt, then that's good. I mean, that's great for Scotland, it's great for the image.
It's a great awareness all round, and it brings people into the culture.
Sure. The only thing that we don't do, we never ever compromise the integrity of the kilt. Although we come up with modern designs, it's still a proper kilt. We don't go for these lightweight, 8 ounce, 3-yard imported things. We don't even sell them, So we try to keep the integrity of the thing, which is much the same as I do with the music and pipes. A lot of people think, oh, you play some zany modern tunes, but they've all got piping embellishments in them, and the hardest thing to do is play them with a piping technique, with the bagpipe tuned and rhythmically in the groove. Pipers can all play it. A lot of pipers say, oh, I could play that. There's only 10 Dublins and 1 Torlooth, and I can do that. Aye, but very often they cannot play in the groove with the rhythm. And there's very few solo pipers can do that as well. It's amazing because they're kind of entrenched in this one cut and snap style, which is a thing that's you only find in piping. You never really find other musicians that are trapped in a particular rhythmic, cloned into a style,
That takes me just a wee trigger in my head there when you were talking. You're a successful solo piper. Historically, you've done fine, and there's a wee notion about Brittany. And can you tell me about Brittany?
I went to Brittany 30 years ago.
Aye.
I played in the very first Macallan Trophy, actually,
Right.
and I thought the music over there at that time was fantastic. When I went to visit Brittany and heard the Bombars and the Bagads playing, I just thought, this is fantastic, you know, I want to stay here and play this music. I actually entered the competition, and a guy called Erwan Ropar, who was a pipe major of Campere.
He's just retired now.
He's just retired, that's right. He actually took me to this bar on the Friday night before the Saturday contest for the Macallan Trophy and taught me this two Breton tunes to play the next morning.
It wasn't the Gaelic bar in Campere, was it?
It probably was. And it was busy. And I always remember we were behind the bar in this wee stock room, and he gave me the notes. The tune was no bother. And then he taught me the dance. And I never forget it. We're through in this wee back room doing this wee dance to show how the particular tune should, how the style of the tune. And you understood it when you tried to dance.
Of course.
And I played and I got a prize in the Breton music, which I was stunned by. But that was my first experience.
Tell the viewers who else was there that year competing against you.
Well, not that year. There was a lot of good players always in the Macallan Trophy. The year I won the Grand Slam in the Macallan Trophy, there were 4 pipers from Scotland, 4 from Ireland and 4 from Brittany. And the 4 Scottish pipers that year was Fred Morrison, Alan MacDonald, Gordon Duncan and myself. That was a Scottish team, which was quite a formidable team.
And you topped that?
I won the Scottish, Breton and the Irish music, and
there you are.
And got a gallon of Macallan's 25-year-old.
That's quite a feather in the cap.
Yeah, but I think I was successful in that because I enjoyed it. I love the time signatures and the rhythms of the Breton music, and I like the loose style of the Irish music, you know. And that is where I could probably excel, because I can change rhythms and play styles, and I stylised it very much, and I really enjoyed that.
The other thing was that you kind of looked after yourself. You didn't drink before you played or anything like that.
Aye, well, in those days, there was 1 or 2 of the guys in the team who liked the dram, and I thought to myself, no, this is a big prize, there's big money at stake here. I'm going to sit back with these guys. Luckily for me, these guys were out giving it the big style at the bar out there, and I thought, oh, I'll wait until after Saturday. It paid off, I don't.
Of course it did. Well, that's where you win hands down, because you're driving there, you've got a target and you aim for that and you work very hard at it. I'm going to ask you about your involvement with the RSPBA committees, stuff like that, just a minute or so in that. Yeah,
well, I'm not currently on any of the committees, but I have spent a lot of years, I think it was something like 12, 15 years on the music board. And on the branch as well, the committee of the branch, the Glasgow and West of Scotland branch. I'm a great believer. You hear people in the pipe band world especially moaning about this rule and that rule and this is ridiculous and that's bad. But the sad fact of life is the world is run by those that show up.
Correct.
And if you don't show up, you're not going to get a say, you know. So I think everybody should, if you're in the RSPB, you should almost force everybody like a national service to spend 2 years in some kind of committee to find out how it functions, and then you understand the thing a bit more, you know.
You only get the MPs you deserve, you only get the PMs you deserve.
Exactly, that's right.
Could you advise the viewers regarding how they should be practising, just your general comments on advice to youngsters?
Well, in terms of performance and competition, it's all about preparation. Prepare mentally, prepare physically, prepare tonally. The most successful guys you see are the most successful pipe bands. You often hear them being accused of being lucky, but the bottom line is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and the harder you practice, the luckier you'll get.
Fantastic. Great advice to finish with. Thanks very much, Robert.
Thank you.